made some inroads. We got into farming it ourselves, getting the indigo, dyeing it, extracting it, and a whole lot of those processes because we wanted to make denims. We started looking at people who will help us in making it into selvage denims. And I found one gentleman in Delhi who was talking to the industry minister, Mr. Gadkari, and trying to convince him because if you make denims using handlooms, then you can create a lot of work, and there's a huge demand for it. And he fortunately said, I will come and teach you. And we started working with him. We started the project. Unfortunately, he had to go under the knife for a surgery, and then his health dwindled, and then he passed away, unfortunately. But that's how we got started. But today, we have moved on, and we are almost on the verge of cracking the selvage denim as well as the indigo part. So overall, if you look at it, we are looking at a supply chain which is huge. We are talking of a seed to garment facility. One of the major issues in spinnability is the spinning part is always economies of scale. Typically, a spinning machine will cost you somewhere around 20 crores to 30 crores, actually, and it will need 20,000 square feet. One of my close friends, and as well as my mentor, one Mr. Kannan in IIT Madras, had started working on this spinning machine and making it at a scale which is human scale, actually. His whole idea is like, see, inside the entire value chain of cotton, if you take a shirt, it may weigh around 700 grams. But if you map the entire value chain, the highest value addition happens from cotton to yarn, actually, or lint to yarn. And therefore, he said, instead of the farmer selling cotton, if he's able to sell yarn, then he might be better off and he may not commit suicide. Almost, I can tell you, 100% of farmers are today making a loss in cotton cultivation, actually. There is very little money. They do it out of more of a habit and looking at the total revenue figures instead of working out what exactly the profit is, actually. So Kannan worked almost 15, 20 years in trying to make what you call a spinning machine, which is much slower in scale. And finally, his machines are at a very good stage. Earlier, there were a lot of complaints, and it is not. See, spinning machine was one of the 4 main missions which were discovered during the Industrial Revolution or the modern era, starting of the modern era. Your printing machine, your steam engine, and your looms were the other 3, and the best of minds had worked on that. You will always see like people who are rich are the only guys who spin, and people who are spin will always be rich. So Kannan was able to make it a small scale. Kannan's earlier fame was he made a rural ATM at 1/10 the cost. And there are only 2 companies who was making ATMs at that time. One was Diebold and another was NCR. And Kannan's was the 3rd machine, and it would work in very rural area. In fact, he had to stop his work on spinning machine and then get into making this kind of ATMs. And that is why the ATMs are called Votex. He sold the company, but continued then back on a spinning machine. And today the spinning machines are so well evolved that within a square feet of 1,000 square feet, you can use the whole thing and you can put cotton and you will get yarn on the other side, actually. So we had access to the technology, and it is very, very less power consuming, and it can only handle 250 kgs of cotton a day. So if 500 to 600 farmers gather together, they can all put their cotton and they will be able to get yarn. And you will see that cotton prices fluctuate a lot, but yarn prices don't fluctuate as much. Cotton is traded in the commodity market, whereas yarn is not traded in the commodity market. So therefore, it makes more sense, and you can hold yarn for a much longer duration compared to cotton, actually. So we were willing to work together with Kannan in order to make yarn for the farmers. And Kannan also started working mainly because of that. There are a lot of farmers who are committing suicide. There's a whole work which was done by a group called PPST, Patriotic People of I forgot the whole acronym, but anyway, it is called PPST, and they were a technology group which was working for people, actually. It is called People Oriented Patriotic Society, I think. And they developed a lot of technologies. And today this machine is also in our hands, and its what you call consumption is very low. Meanwhile, another industrialist from Bangalore, I think he's also part of this discussion, he said he had developed a machine whereby he will be able to convert biomass into what you call into power, actually. So instead of using, say, a liter of diesel, you can use 3 kg of wood and it will be able to substitute. I have seen the evolution of this biomass gas, where biomass gas wells are very, very old. I'm aware of it. Today, he's able to sell it to Japan, actually, because he has made so many improvements in it. He was selling ball pens to Walmart and all those companies. And in 2008, there was a huge drought and there was a huge power shortages. So he was looking at an alternate power source, which can help him to adhere to timelines. And he spent a whole lot of money around the tune of 10 to 100 crores, I think. I don't know exact figures. And he developed this machine with the help of his brother, who was part of NASA and all that. And this biomass gasifier is very, very interesting. Again, very, very compact, hardly 25 square foot with all it needs. And in that, if you feed the biomass, Prosopis juliflora, which is an invasive crop in Ramnad, if you feed that, then you will get 4 outputs. You will get one is you will get biochar, another is you will get power, that is electricity, and plus you will get heat and cold actually. And the interesting aspect of it is like Prosopis juliflora being an invasive species, we get biochar. Biochar is elemental carbon. What we are currently doing is removing carbon under the soil and burning it into gases and sending it to the environment, which causes your greenhouse effect. And now the only way to sequester carbon is convert it into elemental form and put it back into the soil. And this is what this machine does, besides producing electricity. Now with biochar, the advantage is it has a huge surface area. With 1 gram of biochar can cover an entire football field, and therefore it has a lot of spaces in between, and in that space your microbes can reside, your water can be held, your nutrient can be held. That is why it is able to reduce consumption of water or consumption of fertilizer by a significant level actually. The other important thing is the biggest problem facing Indian agriculture is the organic carbon content in soil. In Indian agriculture, currently we have less than 0.5% of organic carbon content. If your organic carbon content is 6%, your soil becomes sustainable. In the sense, it can absorb moisture from air itself, and you don't need to water the plants at all, actually. Therefore, we started working with Mr. Ranganathan, and Ranganathan was kind enough to help us. And he also had a bio input company, which he was using to manufacture, create plantations, which will be the feeder stock for his electricity generating biomass gasifiers. So he had special formulations, and this bio input company was CAL certified, which is one of the highest levels of certification in organic, and all the inputs are organic. And if you add this with the biochar, that is inoculate the biochar with all this microbial consortium which he has, we were able to observe that the cotton increases in yield. That was the second major problem after spinability. So we were able to get more than 40 to 120% increase in yield actually. But the third is the most fascinating thing, and the core part of this is if you use that, we also get generate electricity. And that electricity can also be used to run our ginning machines, spinning machine, weaving machines, tailoring machines, and even electric vehicles. And you may ask, like, what will you do once the process is cleared? Obviously, we want to convert it into cotton. We will add EVAM because that is needed. VAM, and it's a microbial consortium again. And then we can grow cotton. And once the cotton is plucked, all the stalks can be briquetted, and those briquetted stalks can be used as a fuel. Therefore, you are taking only the cotton out, everything rests in the same place. And not only that, you are also able to put the biochar back. Therefore, you are increasing our organic carbon content in the soil. This is what probably fits into the circular economy framework. And therefore, we are not sending you anything outside except the cotton. And therefore, it is a highly sustainable cotton that we will be able to produce. And in this process, if you look at it, the total carbon content, how much we are sequestering is often overweighs what we take out as carbon actually. And therefore you can call it very safely, not only as a negative carbon cotton, but also as a negative carbon garment actually. And today the industry is struggling and goes gaga if anybody claims that their cotton is actually carbon neutral, not even carbon negative, whereas we are very sure that we will be able to do carbon negative cotton as well as carbon negative garments, because the power will actually come from the carbon stocks which are briquetted actually. One more side area in this in which we work was we also in the process discovered some colored cotton actually. Cotton which is naturally brown in color. There are also green and blue also is there. And one advantage of colored cotton is like when you wear inner garments, your inner garments need not be dyed actually. White inner garments are seen as a sign of cleanliness. The only functional value that cotton adds, the color adds in that is that you can identify, I wore this yesterday, so I don't have to wear it the same one again, and basically identifying your garments actually. But the trickier part is it covers those areas in your body which are basically what you call where fluid exchange happens, basically at the lymph nodes. And most of the dye is using chemical dyes which use a very strong heavy metal as as a mordant actually. But here is a solution whereby you can use already a colored cotton. The cotton itself is in color, and when you use that cotton to as you use it becomes darker and not lighter actually. And there are some pockets, very very small pockets in Manipur, Andhra, Punjab, where 1 or 2 farmers are growing it. We are trying to propagate it, make it to scale so that this colored cotton can also come in. Imagine even if you get 2 or 3 colors, then there is a lot which you can save. In fact, Karangani cotton by nature itself is yellow in color. One reason the government banned all the colored cotton was the mainstream cotton or the white cotton has what is called as a whiteness index, and often cotton is valued by its whiteness, and therefore it is what you call the other colored cottons have been banned. But of late, the government of India is having a rethink. And one major milestone in all this is like some 4 or 5 years back, the Central Institute for Cotton Research in Nagpur, the head one, Mr. Keshav Kranti, very blatantly told in front of everybody that the future is Desi cotton. Looking at the research that is being done, I am reasonably sure that American cotton has no business here. Unfortunately, within 6 months, he was shifted to the US and made as the head of International Cotton Research Center. That's a different story. But that was a lead which we picked, and saying like if somebody of such stature is saying, then probably we should work more. Today, we are at a stage where this year we may grow it with 100 to 300 farmers. Before Corona, we had reached a number of around 150 farmers, but due to Corona, many of the funding agencies also pulled the plug, and it was very difficult even to go out on the field. We experienced the same in indigo also. Much of our indigo had to plow back into the land because we couldn't get people who can cut. Indigo will become dark and useless within 4 hours of plucking. You should extract the indigo or seal it airtight. And sealing it airtight involves a lot of volume and space that you'll have to cover. And therefore, like we had to restart the whole game. Today, we are at a stage where we are sure that we'll be able to take it to the next stage. And probably in the next 2 months, we have reached a stage where we are able to do seed to garment. We are making material that is yardage out of the cotton and trying to make bags and sell, because that is the low hanging fruit for us. But in another 2 to 3 months, we'll be able to make our selvage tenants. So here is a story of a cotton which is extremely sustainable, which does not need huge amounts of fertilizer or pesticide or water, but unfortunately has been ignored for more than 100 years. And if we turn our attention towards it, we can actually have a sustainable fiber which is there in our hands, which is there in the backyard, but we have forgotten about it. So our pursuit has been to revive Desi cotton and make it more popular. I think with that, I will stop, and I'm open to taking questions also.